Hello everyone, I'm Nasreddin, I am from Algeria. Since the coronavirus pandemic became everyone's talk, we choose this fact to be part of my research in which we talk about the role that the corona pandemic played in changing the date of the Mediterranean Games Algeria in 2021. This happened with all the events in the world, including our scientific conference, which was enabled to bring us together and imposed in us the hypothetical method that we hope will end as soon as possible. The Mediterranean Sea included the oldest civilizations, for example, Egypt, Greeks, Romans, Phoenicians, and others. The main link between them was the Mediterranean Sea. Three interconnected circles are the symbol of the games, and they cross three continents: Europe, Africa, and Asia. The objective of this study is to know if the games were suspended or postponed before this edition, and looking for if the epidemic was one of the reasons that hampered the organization of sporting events, just like the coronavirus pandemic, which affected many local and international sporting events. Are the preparations for the Mediterranean Games affected after it was postponed to 2022, and how is the reflected on the athletes' preparations and their moral states? We have three operational concepts: the Mediterranean Games and the coronavirus pandemic COVID-19, and moral and material disturbance of organizers and athletes. The following table shows that the Mediterranean Games have not been cancelled since they were established in 1951, and the ninth edition of 2021 is the first to be postponed. The map shows that all editions of the games were organized at the level of coastal towns around the Mediterranean Sea, except the 9th edition, which was in Casablanca in Morocco in 1983. The Olympics is the sporting event, the biggest and most importantly. They were stopped 3 times, and the reason was only one: the First and the Second World War. Morocco was the first country in modern history to refuse to host a sporting event in its territory because of the epidemic, which spread to West Africa by the spread of the Ebola virus, which was a real threat to the whole region. The corona pandemic is taking hold of the world, and everything has become a matter of reconsideration. And this is what is what happened at the 9th edition of Mediterranean Games. All political, economic, and global circumstances are not favorable to the organization and success of the games. On the contrary, the seventh edition of the Mediterranean Games in 1975, hosted by Algeria, was one of the most successful because of stable political, economic, and international conditions. The instability of the members of the preparatory committee for the Mediterranean Games has made the prospect of the successes not guaranteed, especially if it concerns the high-ranking officials who represent the decision-making authority. More dangerous than that is the constant change of executives at the level of the Oran city, which hosts the games and is the subject of the great preparation at the level of fundamental infrastructure. Changing senior officials put athletes and sport in more difficult situations due to athletes' negligence, because we cannot guarantee the coordination and direction of preparations for the more than 4,500 athletes participating in the Games, including 25 Olympian sports. The impact of the renewal of the executive offices of sports federations that take place in political unstable conditions has greatly affected local athletes who were neglected by supervisors due to the strategy over winning struggle of the winning the election, and the athletes found themselves alone with too controlled preparation program or clear financing guarantees. A big budget has been allocated for the organization for the games, and that at the time of economic prosperity in 2050 and 2060, and launch of the Hague projects related to major sports facilities. The most important of is the Olympic Village. However, the change in the political conditions in the country and the launch of the large anti-corruption campaign revealed great manipulation in the project, including those allocated to finances organizing games. With regard to the work of the specialized committee, the organizing committee of the Mediterranean Games, they are all linked to the changes imposed by the coronavirus pandemic, the most important of which are social distancing, the closure of airspace, the international blockade, the issue of vaccination, the rate of vaccination, the issue of public attendance or not, health safety, and conditions to combat the spread virus. All these changed the work strategy of this specialized committee, which are the basis of the preparation, planning, and implementation process. Perhaps the problem of the countries participating in the games is greatly affected by the coronavirus pandemic, which is the most affected in the world. For example, Spain, Italy, France, Lebanon, and others, which make the organization process and the conditions of prevention difficult. Vaccination is also an important element, and it deals with the problem of the big difference between the countries participating in the games in terms of the degree of poverty. At the time, France vaccinated 50% of its population. Some countries were still unable to vaccinate even individuals working in the medical corps. In the end, negative indicators ensuring the success of organizing the Mediterranean Games remain far from what has been planned and availability of political will. International cooperation and continuous effort may change this sinister destiny, which is in concern for all Algerians in general and the athletes in particular. Combating contests is a big challenge. Coronavirus pandemic asks humanity to physical and socially distance for the sake of safety. And sport was founded by human beings on the values of physical, social, cultural, and politically appreciate to be a means of bringing people together and making them count in happiness and meet in peace. Between this and that, we must innovate the way we are together with a feeling that one of us guarantees the safety of the other. Thank you so much for listening.